Welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and welcome to the season review 2021-2022. We are looking back on Everton's eventful season just gone. Just 24 hours after the season came to its conclusion with a fitting 5-1 defeat to Arsenal. We're going to look back on what is safe to say been a traumatic campaign for us as Evertonians. We've all aged probably a collective 1,000 years between us all, but we're going to start by obviously looking back on obviously what was a mad summer last year and a lot of turmoil, and when it went from sublime to the ridiculous, really, didn't it? The whole season, it's been absolutely insane. Not for the right reasons in the most part, but we'll get straight into it anyway. Obviously, we have to talk about the elephant in the room, and he's almost as big as an elephant, but it's Mr. Rafa Benitez. He obviously got appointed in July or late June last year, and obviously off the back of Barlow leaving was always going to be a depressing replacement for Ancelotti, but Farhad Mashidi just about picked the worst option he could have done. It didn't look that way in hindsight, though. Like at that time, with the benefit of hindsight, it was a bad appointment. But at the time, what was your take on Benitez being appointment? I weren't pleased, but did you just think he'd do an okay job?
Well, if we're being honest, no. But if I'm being totally honest, I don't know who else I would have probably have gone to at that point. So it's still like a bit of a weird one. It was a nightmare. But let's rewind ourselves back to last July. And we just come back off of finishing 10th and 59 points, which isn't a king's ransom, I'll give you that. But it was still a fairly decent return on the averages of what Everton normally get and what Everton got this season as it goes. But yeah, so many people were so confident that we were going to tear it up under this proper coach who doesn't stand there on the touchline with a brew and doesn't just say just play and leave it to his son. He was going to get hands on. So I was all excited because I was getting told all this new information about how things were going to be revolutionised this season. And it was revolutionised, but just for the worst. But if I'm being honest, I do think with Benitez, right, it was difficult, right? And he was a catastrophic appointment, right? But he was given a hospital pass also. No manager in the world would have done well or wouldn't have struggled having been given £1 million to spend. He wasn't. We have to be fair that he wasn't given a lot to work with, and the struggles he had couldn't be surprised because he was toxic and he was a joke. But you appoint a manager who's toxic and a joke, and you give him £1 million and you get the 21-22 Premier League season.
Exactly. I think you've summed it up pretty well there. But you also touched on, same person who's to blame for us only having £1 million to spend last summer is the same person who's to blame for appointing Rafa Benitez. So, a lot. And, we will touch on what the aftermath of this season will be going forward. There's obviously been the 27 years campaign, and that was obviously shelved a little bit while we tried to stay up. And there will be a bit to touch on, like what the situation is for, players, staff, board moving forward later on in the show. But, obviously going into the season with Rafa Benitez as manager, like you say, that the funding was very low. Andros Townsend came in for free, Damari Gray for £1 million. Salomon Rondon, Asmir Begovic, some very exciting
there's
signs.
another one. There's another one, Salomon Rondon, the best striker in the world, who everyone was having to go at Terry at last summer for saying was an absolute dope.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you said, Owen, about like, I think I was a little bit not as bad as all them. Like I knew losing Carlo Ancelotti would be like catastrophic. I've said it previously, and I'll stand by it. I think losing him in the manner that we did was as damaging as the European ban to the club in the long term. I think when you look at like that, we had a manager that good, and he was really settled and really happy in the club. And if the dominoes had fell differently, Allegri goes to Real Madrid and Carlo stays here and what have you, then we could be, it's a sliding doors moment. But
they very rarely go in Everton's favour, do they?
No. But that's what I mean. Like Benitez, let's be real about him. Like, he was in China for a reason. He's just got fantastic PR in the media of this country because he gave Liverpool the greatest night in their history. Like, it doesn't matter how many things they win now, that will always be their greatest night. And there's just a class of journalist, pundits, what have you, in this country who all love that and will never say a bad word about the man. So they basically had their articles written that, Everton fans never gave him a chance. Everton fans didn't want him in the first place.
One of those, by the way, one of those journals was actually Alison Rudd, who's obviously been coming in slated Lampard. She was on the One Night in May documentary, actually, when they made about the Istanbul.
Of course she was. But
she was one of the talking heads on that show. So,
The thing is, though, it's just it's like I didn't really think it'd work, but I was intrigued. I was sort of trying to talk myself into it, going, well, it could be really interesting that he's the only ever manager, apart from I can't remember the guy's name. It's terrible, but from 1900s who's managed both teams. It's such a rarity that I thought maybe this will be like this mad footballing story where one man who was loved by one side of the city came in and he did a good job at the other one, and he's the only man who really has that love of both clubs. And
I was hoping it'd be like the managerial equivalent of Gary Ablett.
But I was just I was hoping it'd work, and then it was just a fool's hope because he's washed up. He's crap. Like, he was, as I say, he's in China for a reason. He left Newcastle. He didn't do any better a job statistically than Steve Bruce, but he gets painted as this messiah. He's absolutely washed up. Like, he's.
I'm hesitant to call anyone washed up because David Moyes was an absolute joke of a manager and then came back at West Ham and bossing it. So there's always a chance for everyone. But with him, I think it's.
David Moyes doesn't go into clubs and deliberately start trouble causing and elbowing people out of the job.
That's what I was going to say.
We'll get to that. Yeah, his football and philosophy, it was not his problem. It was his conduct off the field. The man is a classless knobhead, and we'll come to that as we get into the season. But he made a rod for his own back with his behaviour and some of the decisions he made. But back to you, James. We'll get going on the timeline.
We'll get straight into it. Obviously, we spoke about the signings, the ins and outs. Season gets underway. It gets off to a very, very good start. I think we win 6 games in the league we win 4 games out of 6.
New manager
about. Well, it certainly was. So it turned out. The performances were decent. We pleased. Obviously, the results were good, but actually watching the game, did it look like we had the makings of a decent side?
Do you know what? I will say that, because we weren't reinventing the wheel of football, but we were creating some decent chances. We were relatively solid, but what you've got to bear in mind here is that we weren't playing very good teams. So we beat Brighton, who are away, a decent win, but a lot of teams have gone there and sort of counter-attacked them and done well. So you could have seen that coming. Southampton, Leeds drew and Leeds stayed up on the last day. We beat Burnley at home. I mean, they got relegated, and we were getting beaten that till the 65th minute. Who else?
There's a game, and thank God that turned out the way it did. And Ross Townsend just kept us up with an absolute chip from 40 yards.
Could have gone the other way. We'd be in the Championship now. So,
and Ross Townsend's absolute thunderbolt has actually kept us up in the end.
Well,
what's he done other
than?
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, those results, as Owen said, we weren't playing very good teams. We had a new manager bounce, we had new player bounce. A couple of players had a little purple patch on the start, like Townsend and Damari Gray, for example, and he got the team. He had a clear system he wanted to play. Before he started, knocking the wheels off it. But he had, Calvert-Lewin up front. He had Richarlison on the left. He had Townsend on the right, whipping crosses in. Nothing but just put percentage balls into Calvert-Lewin. And he had Damari Gray in the 10 to hit on the counter. and it worked. So, he had other players as well, like Luca Dean putting crosses in, but then after those 6 games, that's when injuries started to creep in, and his plan A wasn't available to him.
And he just refused to go to anything else. But I think that sort of, there was some good moments at the start, and I think that Brighton game was one of Everton's most complete performances of the last couple of seasons. To be honest, I thought that was we should have won about 5-0. We were excellent.
Yeah, that was probably the high point of the season for me. That was the most confident.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, something in them first couple of games, they were really excellent. Leeds, we gave it away, but the issues that ended up haunting Benitez later on, in terms of tactical issues, were evident in them first 6 games. Set pieces, we never won the first header. The one thing we haven't done well at all this season until the last month is defending counter-attacks. I don't know what it is this season, but we just seem to slip and slide everywhere.
Lost our shape really easily.
Yeah, but Benitez was someone when he came to England in 2000 and sort of 4 or 5.
He signed up, yeah.
He's very innovative in terms of how his teams played without the ball. They were super compact, super organised, and you couldn't get through them. But at Everton, he took football back to the 90s, where the 2 wingers are on the sort of getting chalk on the boots. So there was just gaps everywhere, and we only played 2 men in midfield. So we were just overrun all the time because he had these wingers getting chalk on the boots. And when we lost the ball, there was just 2 men. And I think that's what resulted in the end of cutting the legs off Luca Dean, because we were just overrunning on attacks. Yeah, we're overstretched, and he never dealt with it by putting an extra man in there. And then his solution was to go 5 at the back, which with wing backs who were 2 right backs in the end, and we'll get onto that. But the first few games, they were good. We played poor teams, but you did notice a few issues in terms of how we would go on. And yeah, it was not to be.
Like you say, obviously there was all the disappointments. We went out the club early doors to QPR, and that was obviously we're cursed in that club anyway, so that didn't come as any surprise to me, to be honest. But obviously then we went on after the international break. We went on to lose to West Ham through another set piece goal, and that was disappointing, and I was upset about that. Obviously being a home game, I don't like losing home games, full stop. But I sort of let it slide. But West Ham are a good side, It's a 1-0 defeat. It's not like we've been whacked. I thought, on to the next one. And then, like I say, the next one was where the wheels well and truly fell off. I mean, I was out that day, and, I looked at the score at half time. We were playing, obviously, Watford the next game at home. Watford at home is as much of a home banker as you can really ask for in the Premier League. I look at the score. It's not fantastic. I think we were 1-1 at half time. We then go 2-1 up and somehow lose at 5-2. What in God's name happened in that game? I didn't even bring myself to watch a lot of it because I still haven't seen some of the goals.
Honestly, it's the worst.
I know.
Roberto Martinez was proud watching that. In terms of in-game management, that is the worst I've ever seen from any Everton team in my life. We go 2-1 up, and it was a nothing game for an hour, honestly. There was nothing in it. And then for the last half an hour, we just decided that we didn't have to defend anymore. It was bizarre. Yeah.
That is one I will have to put my hands up and say I don't blame that one on Benitez. The players just went rogue. I don't know what they were thinking. So they were clearly all losing their markers, and even good players like Luca Dean just looked drunk on the pitch. They just didn't know what they were meant to be doing or where they were.
Even by his standard, I think that's probably one of Michael Keane's worst performances I've ever seen. When he gets sat down by Emmanuel Dennis or Josh King or one of them, someone just sits him on his arse and just taps it in.
Your guy Kuchka, Christ.
He scored the header. He made it 2-2 from a set piece again. So whole
absolute crabs in that Watford team as well. There's some crabs in that Watford team.
Cleverly's in that Watford team.
Oh, that's a bad team.
But
I don't like them, any of them.
But basically, yeah. So we were actually 2-1. The goal we conceded to make it 2-2 was again from a set piece. And then, like you say, their heads just fell off from there on in. And, off the back of that, I was like, what in God's name is that? Like, we are like an absolute mess. And, the season just went from there. Then, it just started tumbling down a hill.
Yeah, I was like scar for life after that Watford one. And then we move on to Wolves, where we thought it was a good idea to play Alan and a bloke who hasn't played 90 minutes in about 5 years in a two-man midfield against Wolves, who were amazing at keeping the ball away from you and keeping your arms length. What on earth was he thinking for that one? That was my favourite Benitezism over his time at that game, because I think it was just a joke. I don't know what we set out to do there.
Yeah,
and then
I remember the game, if I'm not mistaken, that's what prompted you to tweet. I can't begin to tell you how much trouble we're in. And you got, if I'm not mistaken, you did get like slapped down by a lot of people for that, because you were still about 10th.
Some very highly respected people as well said we're in absolutely no trouble and it's fine, and wait until he gets his players back because he doesn't stand there with a broom. But yeah, I I remember saying the full time we are in so much trouble. It's unbelievable, because you can smell it. You can feel.
You can see the chaos unfolding for you.
You just saw it all on that pitch that day. I don't know about any of you, but was I the only one after that Wolves game who thought we are in bang trouble here?
I didn't think that dramatically, but I was just like really depressed because we'd lost 2 games on the spin in embarrassing fashion, and I think obviously we went on to Spurs after that. That was a decent performance, a 0-0 draw. We probably should have won it, and obviously a soft red card, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, we forgot about the glaring penalty we should have had.
Oh yeah, and that one as well, yeah. But yeah, if I'm not mistaken, that wasn't a terrible performance. But then, go to Brentford, get beat, and then obviously lose the derby at home. And I think that's when that's the thing, that this is Terry's moment to shine, because Terry was envisaging this moment from the minute Benitez was appointed. The idea of the Reds singing his name at Goodison while he got his hammered in a derby.
Oh yeah, it was nailed on, wasn't it? Like
after dinner speeches, after his retirement and all that. You envisaged this a long way away, didn't you, Terry?
Said that a lot. Like this is when I was already like the very short like delusion I put myself under of, this might work, and well gone by then. It's going, this is just a joke. This, because obviously what we haven't touched on yet is a lot of stuff starts happening off the pitch around this time, and Rafa Benitez gets up to it, goes into his normal bag of tricks and starts getting people sacked from jobs and clubs. He's done it every single where he's been. That's why he's been chased from Real Madrid into Milan. These clubs with really strong identities. You go, what's this idiot trying to do? No, thank you. The only club where he got away with it was at Liverpool, and that's because he gave them a Champions League in his first season.
And also, like he did at Newcastle, he was able to hide behind the fact that they had owners who the fans couldn't stand.
But this is what I mean. Like he was a made man at Liverpool because he delivered straight away, and he delivered something that no one expected him to do. But when he walked into Everton and he's deciding, right, that physio is disagreeing with me, even though he's proved me completely wrong on a player who I've injured and fucked the season up for. I'm getting rid of heads of recruitment, scouts. I'm elbowing out the director of football because he doesn't agree with me. He starts alienating players around this time for going to him with issues. The vice captain, Luca Dean, going to him with an issue. Now, it basically decides, right, I'm going to alienate him and ostracize him from the squad while we're shipping goals left, right, and centre, and while we're losing games. So he's putting himself and his own ego before the club. I'm not one of them who wants to back the player over a manager, but I'm sorry. When he came out with his justification of, well, this team finished 10th last year, this team finished 10th, I'm not interested in 10th, and he's sitting in 14th while he's saying that. And he's trying to throw players under the bus. Yeah, I said, this is the point where I'm starting to wonder if this fella's doing deliberate damage. He's coming to Everton. He'll always be a legend at Liverpool. Is he coming in just to try and get us sent down? And he said in a few months' time, he'll be back doing his after-dinner speeches for Liverpool. And then when Everton's name comes up, they'll all have a good laugh about it. And we're the ones what's the joke, carrying the can.
But we haven't had after-dinner speeches yet, but obviously when Liverpool won the cup the other week, he was quick enough to tweet out in support of that.
His keyboard was mercy, wasn't it?
Who didn't think he was going to do that? Like that, the second he'd been chased by us after setting fires to everything, that he'd be right back, going to their boss nights or whatever it is. Like he's there, man. And people argue the toss with me on this. I think eventually he started doing deliberate damage because he got his payoff anyway. And how much, make himself even more of a hero for Liverpool than he sent Everton down. He nearly pulled it off. But the Liverpool game, I don't even want to talk about the game. The only positive I can think of is it probably should have been by more goals because it was a complete mismatch. Us this season against them this season. Ridiculous.
Yeah, it was a nightmare.
But
another thing as well, before we get to the Luca Dean stuff, the Danny Donachie stuff, which was an absolute disgrace, by the way, was earlier on. It was earlier on.
It was October that was.
Yeah, it was October time. And the fitness and the pre-match stuff with Benitez, you think it was 1975 still, because the team had a clear fitness sort of direction about what it needed to do to be fit for matches. By the way, we've had the worst injury record ever this season, so I'm putting that on Benitez, not the physios. Was that 20 years ago in Valencia, he just did laps. So a Champions League winning manager just thinks it's applicable just to do laps. It's hilarious. But yeah, for me, he was just an absolute toxic rat, honestly. But whenever we'll get onto the Lampard stuff, and I can honestly say for 2 months he was absolutely clueless. But one thing I can say is every time I've a question, people have made the assumption that I somehow like Benitez. I absolutely love Benitez. I wanted Benitez gone from about October. He was rubbish, but yeah, he was absolutely a joke. And I think this derby game he should have gone the morning after. He was absolutely pathetic, and the fact we let it go on about another 3 weeks was an absolute joke. It was clear as day that he was having us on, and he went out with COVID after that. And we lost the rhythm when we beat Arsenal, but no, this was a really depressing month. It was like in terms of the depressing month we've had over the past 6 years, this was the worst. I reckon it was just gutless.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, obviously we go on. We won against Arsenal, which was a really good night, but that was the beginning. That was the beginning of the end, obviously, with Luca Dean being frozen out for that game. And then...
Well, we had the walkout that night, didn't we?
The walkout started at the Arsenal game, and I think...
27th minute.
Before that game, but shortly after the Liverpool game, there was the confrontation with Marcel Brands, and he stood down just before this game. And obviously, at the same time, Lucas Dean was dropped for this game. So there was a lot going on and going into this Arsenal game. It was absolutely hostile, the atmosphere in the ground. And I think Angry Goodison kind of helped a little bit in that sense, because we did obviously go on to win the game and, fight back from a goal down to win 2-1. And it was a much needed win, obviously, in the grand scheme of things as well. So it was a good night. That one of the obviously better nights of the season, obviously surrounded by hostility with the, very divisive at the time, 27 years campaign. Somehow I don't think it's quite as divisive now that we've nearly gone down as it was back in December.
Yeah.
I think a lot more people are on board with what the people behind that were trying to achieve back in December. A lot more people have jumped on board with that since the sort of downward spiral continued right until, the last couple of weeks, really, when we rallied. And so it should, to be honest. I think the season's been a disgrace, as we will continue to elaborate on. But
I'll ask you both, right? At what point do you think, because we can all talk about saying, what point was it untenable for Benitez? And we should never have got it, but he came in and whatever. But at what point do you both think there's absolutely no way the morning after this game you should have been the manager of Everton? There's no case to be made.
I think the derby is probably the correct answer.
Okay. What about you, Teddy?
What was the last game before he got sacked?
Norwich,
okay. Yeah, I'd probably go for the derby as well. When they're singing his name and we're just shambles, it's like, yeah, he can't go on now. He was like a zombie manager after that.
Well, he was like, obviously, getting hammered in the derby was enough to see Marco Silva off, and he wasn't half as bad as Benitez. So
in this last season. He was.
But it was one of those. I think that he should have been gone after the derby. And to be honest, in all honesty, I think if we didn't win the Arsenal game, he'd have gone after the inevitable. It was a defeat against
I
Crystal
wouldn't
Palace.
know, mate.
What's stupid stuff about with when he's moaned about Luca Dean's talking about his individual stats and threw him under the bus? Didn't he say something daft after the Liverpool game? How we won a certain stat? What was it?
The running stat.
How was it? The running stat? Yeah, we outran them. It's like, oh yeah, so that's not embarrassing at all. I will never ever be convinced that he wasn't doing this as an elaborate joke. Benitez was just like, I'm not. I will never be convinced that he wasn't just here on some elaborate wind up, like being sent in like a sleeper agent or a poison pill. When just walks in the door, decides to get rid of a load of people who are the infrastructure of the club. Club's not perfect. There's things going wrong. I'm not saying everything was running fine. He wrecked it, but he was making it worse. He was actively making it worse. And then he's standing on the touchline, and the Liverpool fans singing his name. It's like, yeah, get rid of this absolute embarrassment. It's like, what are we doing here? This experiment has failed. This is now exactly how we all said it was going to go. Jamie Carragher said on the Overlap podcast at the beginning of the season, he can't wait for the Liverpool fans to be singing Benitez's name, and he's just going to watch with popcorn. It's like, so are we just some sideshow in Liverpool's story? Are we at this point? Is that what we bring?
Which at that time, to be honest with you, Terry, that's exactly how I felt. I was very depressed about how we just become a laughingstock, the laughingstock of the city. And
yeah, not that you think that supporters all around the country it must have just been looking, going, how did they think this wouldn't happen? Like, and then they don't even know the things that Benitez is doing behind the scenes, like absolute disaster of an appointment.
Ed Medical and disgraceful. So obviously, we had a couple of games postponed due to COVID, which in the end maybe did us a few favours, because if we'd have played them then we'd have probably lost. But anyway, we come back after New Year, lose to Brighton at home, which was bad. Then lose to Norwich away, which was very bad.
I left at half time in that Brighton one. It was. I was sitting there and thought, why am I sat here? Well, what's the point of me being sat here? I could be doing anything other than sat here watching this absolute shite. I watched Dan Burn win about 5 headers, and he was leaving the next day to go to Newcastle. For no, fuck you, Benitez.
I think that was the thing. Like, by this stage, and we have to speak about this isn't just ourselves. This is like across the fan base, the levels of apathy that had set in at this stage. Because by this point, it had been at least a month since I'd actually watched an Everton game. Even the Arsenal game, which we won, I didn't watch. Even when I think it dragged myself to watch the highlights of us actually winning the game against Arsenal. That's the only thing I looked at. At this stage, I think me and the missus have been to a spa day or something. I think we didn't as much as look at the Brighton game, the Norwich game. Didn't pay a blind bit of notice to it. I did not watch an Everton game from about, I think it might have been after that Wolves game. I don't think I watched another Everton game until Benitez was sacked then. And obviously that came to fruition after we got battered somehow by Norwich. So, bottom of the league Norwich, who finished the season with 21 points. And those came against us, obviously.
Oh, it was Keystone's Cops defending for this game. They just did the same thing over and over again, and we looked more confused every time he did it. Michael Keane had another great game this month.
Yeah, own goal. I think that one, wasn't it? I don't know if it was a Michael Keane special. How many own goals did he score this season? What we give him a run for his money at this stage? Yeah.
This is when Michael Keane went on his one-man mission to try and get us relegated, and he was costing us games left, right, and centre. He was
yeah.
This is when my stomach completely turned. This game, it was like, we're not just in danger; we might be the worst team in the league. Like, that's what I was like.
The worst team in the league were pasting us.
Yeah, we are in serious danger, because I always give it to January, because I've seen bad starts before and you can turn it round. I was thinking, we don't look like we're going to turn this round, even with new players. Now, obviously, we'll come to what actually happened, but this is when I was like, please give me 17th on goal difference now. Forget about we'll have a good second half of the season, like Benitez was saying. And yeah, I was like, forget that. Give me 17th on goal difference now and write this joke of a season off. So obviously the club, I'd seen enough at that point as well, because he didn't last after that, did he?
No, I think he was sacked on the way home, weren't he?
Yeah. Well, not before he sold Lucas Dean and spent the money on Mykolenko and Patterson.
That was pathetic of the club, that to let a manager ostracise one of your key players. Now, okay, he was on a big wage, but he's a big player. He was the best. After Benitez had decided to get rid of James Rodriguez based on previous issues he had with him, nothing to do with the club. It's the club obviously was supportive of that because of the wages and the injuries, but the fact that he walked in the door and said, I don't want this player who wants to stay and contributes a lot of goals and assists and key chance creation and what have you, does it to Luca Dean. 3 days before we sack him, we sell one of our key players.
Satisfy him.
Yeah, and to satisfy him because he's made it a me or him scenario with the player. So 3 days before
we didn't just sell him to anyone, no. We sold him to Aston Villa, who were absolutely shite, and without Luca Dean's assist, they could have easily been in the mire as well.
Yeah, and then we signed this. I mean, this January was a mess. I'll let Owen talk about the ones later in the window, because I'm sure he's going to Mykolenko and Patterson are the right idea, but we signed with the sale of a player that Benitez didn't like. We signed 2 Marcel Brands targets, and then the rest of the window would go on like that with people at different levels of the club picking play.
I'll actually have it now that Vitaly Mykolenko was a Carlo Ancelotti target.
Well, I'd heard that he was Brands, but I'll take your word for it. But in any case, the window was just, we signed players that old Carlo signings that he wanted, old Brands signings, Kia Jarabchin signings, Macheri signings, Lampard's own picks, absolute mess. But yeah, so he sells Luca Dean 3 days before he's sacked, and then we bring in those 2 fullbacks, which when if we were stable and humming along nicely and we were in 9th or 8th, that'd be fine. But the fact that we were in the mire and we decided to do that, I wasn't a fan at the time. But we now know that the financial side, we had to sell Luca Dean to bring them 2 in. But it wasn't that we brought them in. It was the fact that it was just no strategy in mind. There was no director of football or manager when we had to sign them 2 players practically.
I think Big Sam was on TalkSport that morning saying I wanted him as well 4 years ago. Everyone else had the player he wanted.
Him and Aubameyang together he wanted, yeah.
At the same time as all this, though, obviously, Dean goes to Villa, and the game after Benitez is sacked, we lose to Villa from a Luca Dean assist. Which in itself says a lot about how that season was going,
That was horrid, that one.
Oh. That was a horrible game. That was a horrible watching. And watching Gerrard strut around Goodison as if he's the big man.
He was shite as well. That's why it gets me. They didn't do a thing the whole game.
Crap.
They were awful. Genuinely dreadful, and we still have conspired to lose. This is where I had 2 stages, and ultimately we didn't go down, but I had 2 stages. My first stage of we're in real trouble, as in relegation battle, was Wolves. After that Villa game where I saw a new manager couldn't lift it in Dunk, I thought
when Dunk couldn't win that game, I was like, oh, we are screwed.
Yeah, because that was the trick we played last time, wasn't it? When it looked like we were in serious trouble. Dunk came in, galvanised everyone, and you saw players like Schneidlin, who hadn't yet, put a sprint in their lives, starting to cover every blade of grass on the pitch. You thought Ferguson is like a good short-term, stimulant, isn't he, to the squad, and he'll get a couple of results, and then the new manager will come in. And when there was just no uptick in effort or anything, I was like, oh, we're not going to get out of this because none of the things we fall back on are working. We haven't even got. This is what I was saying earlier that season. When we were previously in relegation trouble, we had players who, all right, they weren't at the peak of their careers anymore and they weren't top players anymore. But you had experienced heads like Rooney and Walcott and players like that going, if you get in serious danger, they can turn it on for 5 games and then you get out of trouble. And I was looking around our squad going, we haven't got that. Benitez has ripped all the creativity out. There's no number 6. The back 4 and centre backs especially, it's terrible. They can't defend set
as well.
pieces. Can't defend set pieces, and we're playing Rondon up front because Calvert-Lewin's injured. And it was just, we've got nothing in the locker to save us here, just nothing. So I was like that. This is when Norwich and Villa, I really started to worry and panic.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah. And then just when you think they couldn't get any more stupid, they have a look around that team and they decide, yeah, we'll take 2 weeks to appoint a manager. So not only did they leave everything so late and have a shambolic recruitment policy, they just waited until the last day of January to bring anyone in. And it's like they decided on the last day as well. It was just, honestly, that was bizarre.
He brought in a manager who wasn't in another club, who he didn't have to get out. He was available for the whole time and wasted 2 weeks and underarm with another manager as well.
Well, that was it. I think initially they wanted Vitor Pereira, but the fans fought back.
We've missed one. Bloody Martinez.
Oh yeah.
You're going to bring him back?
Yeah.
Oh, I lost my absolute shit that night. I'd have gone down there with bed sheets myself. I let them off with Benitez, but he came back. I wouldn't have.
Yeah, honestly, it was that was the point where it was like you'd had Simon Jordan on TalkSport, who I do agree with a lot because I think he talks a lot of sense, not on everything, but on a lot of things.
He hasn't.
Well, no, he's not perfect on everything, but a lot of the times he talks sense. And I was just sitting there thinking his solution was you need to let the football people like Bill Kenwright make more of the decisions. And I was going, Bill Kenwright wanted to bring Roberto Martinez back when we were in a
football decisions.
A defensive crisis, and we're shipping set pieces. Let's get a manager who can't defend set pieces in. It's ridiculous.
No, I couldn't believe it that night. I was literally fuming. Honestly, no one was I weren't worth speaking to that night when I thought they were bringing him back.
And we were going to let him job share with Belgium.
Oh, I need people forgive this board, honestly. Jesus.
It's a joke. Right. We will touch on that later on in this show anyway, but obviously moving on, deadline day, another bit of a shambles. We brought in Dele Alli and Van der Beek.
I mean, fair play, okay, Dele Alli did well in that last game, Palace, but he didn't start a game for about 4 months before that. And I don't even know if he's going to be in next season. Don't really care if he is or he isn't, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
And then Van der Beek, I mean, Terry would have given us more midfield than Van der Beek. And a lightweight footballer who just all flash and all lovely. Look at me, I can pass the ball sideways. Well done, Donny. See, don't shut the door on your way out.
Yeah, you're right. It was just, it was because we waited so long to appoint a manager. Lampard came in, obviously had not the full picture of this squad, and he brought in, not just him, because obviously there was. I mean, I don't know how you forgot El Ghazi. He had such an impact, but we wasted one of our loan slots on El Ghazi because Mashiri thought now's the time to help Kia Jarabshin out and take one of his 8 clients on loan or someone he's got contacts with. Then we're bringing in, Owen got lightweight, flyweight midfielders who, we need battlers. We
not
need
battle ready now.
Yeah, we needed players to come into the core of the team. The number 6, the centre back, centre midfields who were, proper bastards who will fight for you. And we just brought in loads of fair weather players.
Van der Beek, he's up there with Funes money for me for absolute gobshites. Honestly, I don't get that one at all. Just what he didn't do a thing. He had a song after about 3 minutes, so that's all the hallmarks of a good player.
He got his face spray painted on a wall, didn't he?
Oh, embarrassing.
Yeah, some fan. I mean, I'm all for these things. I want to see more murals and the like, but can you?
Not Donny Van der Beek.
Can you have a bit of a clue? They put Dele Alli and Donny Van der Beek on the wall. And he hadn't done anything but left Calvert-Lewin off, and he'd scored loads of goals the season before. What the hell? A lone player mural on the wall. Oh.
But yet they brought Frank Lampard in as well. So after the X Factor auditions were finished between him and Vitor Pereira, Simon or Farad went for Frank Lampard, and I'm going to be totally honest, back then I weren't totally enamoured by that either, but he wasn't Roberto Martinez and we just needed to get on with it because we'd wasted 3 weeks. So what was the point of having a discussion about it? We just needed to get someone in.
Crack on with it. And in fairness, Van der Beek, he came in and he played very well in that Leeds game, which in the end has been the difference. You know, that
Mate,
was.
I honestly, that game, I think I had to give Leeds midfielders a chasing. Like, I swear to God.
Bielsa was on self-destruct mode at this point, weren't he?
Yeah, I'm not taking it away. Donny van de Beek was good in that game. It's not his fault that he came to the complete wrong club. He should have went to Newcastle. They wanted him, but he ironically knocked them back because he didn't want to be involved in a relegation battle because they looked like they looked like they were gone at that point.
They were the lowest at that stage, yeah.
But he would have been better at a different club. I think United, I think Van der Beek, and I think Lampard all didn't realise the state we were in at the time. And it became quite apparent to them when, several weeks when he was out the team and couldn't get back in.
Yeah, that was bizarre. But wish him all the best on United's bench next season. But Lampard came in and he had them first a few home games, didn't he? The Brentford game and the Leeds game, we won them. But the Newcastle game, can we talk about that for a minute? Why did we turn up thinking we were Barcelona from 15 years ago in that game? I think if he didn't know his task before then, he certainly did after that. Well, I don't think he did because we went to Spurs 2 weeks later. But yeah, that was another right. So Benitez has been a joke. Can't lift them, and now we're getting heavily beaten under a new manager. Right, this could be worrying.
Yeah, after the Spurs game, I was terrified.
Yeah, I think though the 2 home games, Brentford and Leeds. No, Brentford with the cup, and then the away games of Spurs and Newcastle. I think that was like a very thorough education for Frank Lampard. He got to see very quickly, like, this team are shocking when they leave Goodison Park. But when they're at Goodison, sometimes the home crowd can get them through. Now, obviously, we'll go on to how much that it works later, but I think he realised at that point, because even he started in his interviews and press conferences talking about the home games more and focusing. We've got these home games coming up. It was almost like he knew, like, these players haven't got away wins in them, and they didn't.
And then Wolves.
We lost our own to Wolves, and again, that does panic me a bit.
No, Wolves was a really worrying one. I think that's where a lot of people turned that day because, okay, we'd been a joke away from home and we'd been playing like we were away Barcelona and getting hammered. But then it's okay because we were winning a few home games. Then Wolves happened, and I think people looked and thought, right, even this mightn't save us. And that's how worrying it was at that point, because it was like, hang on a minute, we're getting worse as we go along here. It's not like Benitez a joke and we were getting worse and worse and worse. We were much worse before we got much better with Frank Lampard, and in the end, Everton were much better than they were all season. But in the first few months, we were absolutely ranted.
Yeah, I think that this is when it dawned on people as well that the likes of Dele Alli and whatnot weren't going to just come into the team and change things. We were still relying on the same players, and we were shipping goals. It was, like these, even if we put these new midfielders in, we're not going to stop conceding because of them. So I think that was when people realised this is a problem. And we were still getting injuries. Like, we couldn't get a settled team or even a settled part of the team. We were constantly changing the defence and constantly changing the midfield. And, we started to get Richarlison as a number 9, and that was sort of helping it. And then, there was loads of little things as well. Like Michaelenko was struggling to settle in, and we weren't playing Patterson for some reason, and we'll come on to that in a minute. When it came to an end with him, but yeah, I think this is when it really started. We said that a few times, where people really started to panic, but it was like everything we've done now, nothing's changing it. We're still terrible.
Yeah, I think the Wolves game was obviously a real sucker punch for us, I think, but. I think that was actually the point where Alison Rudd wrote that article about Lampard's not going to be all the deluded dreamers won't pull Lampard up the mire.
To be fair to that one, right, and she was an absolute idiot. But the football we were trying to play that day, she had some justification in her words, because we were trying to play out from the back, and we were 20 passes before we'd leave in our own half. And I've said it for years, this team isn't capable. It hasn't got the capabilities to play that football, and he only realised after that game that he couldn't do that. And I don't know if he ever will, to be honest, but he'd be scarred for life after watching some of them performances. But it really was a concern.
just quickly on that, Alison Rhodes, if she's who I think she is, she wrote an earlier in the season, or it might have even been last season, with some love letter about Liverpool, as they do, like, and when it gets published as if it's journalism, and it was just like I think she describes Everton like the other Scouse team, like we see them, but they're not one of us. It's like like with some oddities, like as if we weren't multiple time champions of England before Liverpool were ever a thing. It's like, come on, love. Like you can
honestly, I cannot bear her.
Yeah, just some Reds who isn't content enough to support their own team and be happy with what they are, and frankly be happy with the fact that they're the better of the two Liverpool teams. They have to sort of play it like Everton is just some weird thing in the corner. Like, no, love, it's never been like that. It never will be like that. Liverpool are just a very good team at the minute. You don't have to romanticize it further. And you didn't invent this. You didn't invent singing songs at the match and all that. Like, just be happy with having a good team. You don't need to lionize and tell fibs and stuff about
the way. Not in their nature, mate. It's not in their nature. But on that note, anyway, this was sort of, for me, the low point. Obviously, we go into the Newcastle game, which is one of those rescheduled games that I touched on from December. And it's a 0-0. It's a proper under the lights game, though the fans are roaring us on. We start slowly, I think, and we're growing into the game. And I think this is when the refereeing scandals really started to come to a head around this point. We just lost to City at home with the handball from Rodri. The Southampton game had not long passed, and then obviously the dodgy sending off of Alan as well in this game, which obviously screwed us over for a few games afterwards, but also really ignited the crowd for this one, didn't it?
Well, two things. Firstly, the refereeing scandals for us have been going on for years. Like all the stupid. Do you remember Marco Silva used to get it every single time? He looked like he was about to turn a corner in the form. Something had happened. Like Dele Alli, ironically, had volleyball spike it for Spurs, and he wouldn't get a penalty, or there'd be something would go wrong, and like we'd be in control against Brighton away, and then frigging Aaron Connolly, little garden gnome, runs over Michael Keane's foot and gets. See, it got so bad at this point. Like that City game was one of the worst refereeing decisions. Like you see him clothesline the ball, and one of the other defenders who's watching him do it, the other City defenders, puts his hands on his head because he knows he's just give away a penalty at the end, and he doesn't give it. So they've got video assistant referees, and they're just not worth a carrot because they're just inept. And this is when it really, as you say, it started to ramp up. We were getting really bad game-changing decisions about once a week. Like it was just happening all the time. But the only small light was this City game showed me green shoots of progress. I thought, this looks like we can turn it around because we're giving these a proper game. And we're playing in a way that isn't this naive Lampard ball where we played away at Newcastle where we got battered and dead high line against Son, against Tottenham. It was like, this is where I think Frank and his backroom team, the penny dropped for them, and they thought we're going to have to start playing, anti-football TM. Like, we're going to have to start battling rather than trying to play our way out of this. And all right, it didn't come off in that game, and we probably deserved to get a point. But I saw something in that game and thought, we if we can keep doing that, there's hope.
Yeah, and then Newcastle came and we won that. And the biggest difference, I think, from Wolves the Sunday to Newcastle on the Thursday was we just banged it long every time we got it. And it wasn't pretty. It wasn't, but it was effective, and we won the game. We ground her out. We were ready dogged that night, and we
spoke about like the rise in sort of refereeing scandals and whatnot against us, but this was also the game where the absolute Everton universe of chaos began with the Just Stop Oil, which is like obviously without the delay from the cable tie incident, there was obviously, without that delay, the 14-minute delay, we don't win that game.
Have you seen
the universe of chaos was alive. That was some weird multiverse, and it started then.
We've had so much. Have you seen Grand Old Team's mishmash post there, where it's all different moments in Everton's history? Well, it's like it'll be like little like parts of like famous incidents and famous games, and it's all in one big collage of cartoons.
You can make a compilation of just the last like 3 months.
Yeah, you could, because there was so much. There was Just Stop Oil, with the fella, he had the cable tied around his neck. There was the massive bolt cutters, which clearly were made to like cut
that other man probably giving it the bigger in his face as well.
Yeah. Honestly, that game was just non-stop memes. And then
obviously the limbs after that as well. The fact that Iwobi gets a last-minute winner in that game.
Yeah, and then like
Iwobi as well. That's sort of where his sort of heel face turn sort of come from.
Yeah.
He started his turn then, didn't he? But we got a massive slice of luck. Not luck as in like the goal wasn't lucky. It was a good goal, but it was like somehow that delay worked in our favour when usually things like that go against us. And yeah, just that was, as you say, that was where the multiverse started to like come apart for Everton. Things seemed to happen constantly after this, but it was a massive result because it stopped the rot a little bit. We started to get points on the board, not like consistently and winning left, right, and centre, but that was a big game that we needed to win, and we won it. So it sort of started to bring the confidence back into the players a little bit.
Yeah, I think.
Then a few weeks later was Burnley.
Yeah, we'll touch on that. And I think Frank Lampard, as I said after the Newcastle game, and then I think we got plastered in the cup off Palace right after that. But after that game, I think we had an international break, and I said at the time that the international break will be crucial, and if Frank Lampard uses it properly, then he can really, get his ideas across and improve the way we play. And that seemed to be the case. We lost the next two to Burnley and West Ham. But
yeah, let's not plaster this Burnley one as some sort of like we're setting ideas in. The mood was on the arse that night.
No, of course it was terrible. But even then, I saw like you said, like green shoots after the international break that we were trying to. And again, the West Ham game we lost 2-1, but again
that was okay.
It looked passable, and we had another man sent off to stop us getting back into that game as well. That was two yellow cards. I think one of them at least was very soft on Michael Keane, but
yeah, I mean the Burnley game, I think, is where even the people who've been saying all along, we'll be fine. That's when I think we
were not fine.
Yeah, even the most optimistic, glass half full fans, their arse went that day, because we could have made it 6 points between us and Burnley and really killed it as a race. We could have took ourselves out of it. And we were the better team in the game. We were in control of the game, but then we just the masters of our own downfall. John Joe Kenny was playing in...
That is evidence enough for me to not extend his contract. That game, he was a disgrace.
Yeah, he was... I think he was in the centre of midfield at one point, tries to have a shot at goal, then they break on the counter down his side, and we concede. And then obviously him and Kenny and Godfrey together combined to just... They may as well have just backheeled it into their own net. It was such a bad goal to concede. And then we've gone from in command of the game 2-1 to losing it 3-2, and we've let Burnley back in. Then they've gained 3 points on us, and we could have finished it. And that was where... because people saw our games coming up, and we had Liverpool, we had Chelsea, Man United coming up, and that was it then. I think a lot of people thought we were finished. And if you say you didn't at that point, you're a liar, because you did.
Absolutely.
No one's coming, but the fight back, the real resurgence started in the very next game.
Yeah, that's when it really sort of, obviously you speak about how daunting the fixtures looked, but the Man United game was one of those where I think it's the only occasion, to be honest with you, in the whole running that luck was on our side. I think United were poor, but we still weren't great in this game. But we got the deflection for the goal.
Yeah,
things bounced our way a little bit, and Goodison obviously was like doing its best to lift the players, and got the players over the line. 1-0 win. One ugly as well.
this was the real moment where the sort of style really did shift. It went from he went from the videos of enjoy the ball on social media to like just boot it, and just when it comes back to boot it again, because it's like we've got to find a way. And we recorded some really low pass accuracies over the last month, but I think that the Chelsea one after that was really low, and we just dogged it out.
But in fairness, it was also the game you mentioned, the shift in style. That was actually noted. Like, I think it was on BT, an early kickoff, wasn't it? And after the game, when he was interviewed, Lampard, that was the one where he said, good football comes later, fighting comes first. And I think that sort of mentality was carried on then.
Yeah, and then we had the derby, weren't it?
Well, Leicester after that, I think I was disappointed we only drew that one because
we were shite. But then
we conceded really early, and they were absolute. Again, though, I think that was another one where credit to Lampard and the players. I think we stayed in it. That's that sort of game. Normally, we concede early doors, and it would end up like 3-0 by half time. But we kept hold of the at least the one goal down, and kept ourselves in with a chance, and we got the last minute goal, which was again. Every point counts, and that was a big point. Even though it wasn't the result I wanted, it was better than losing a game at home.
At this point, there was a couple of things that started to dawn on everyone. That one, there was no quality in attack. Like we had to be dogged. We had to defend in numbers, and we had to play the percentages going forward because there was no creativity in the team. So this Man United result we got by working harder than them, because I don't think anyone was quite aware yet how bad Man United's players were. They just were atrocious that day. And we went to Leicester, and because we won that Man United game, I think people were like, you've got to win all these home games because we're not going to get nothing from the away. And they saw it as 2 points dropped against Leicester, but I saw it as a point gain because we were terrible. Like, you forget about on paper, the context of the game was we were awful, but we still got a point out of it. Now, you look at the games coming up and you don't know you're going to win them yet or whatever yet. So it's harder to be positive at the time. But it was every point we got put the pressure more on Burnley and Leeds. And last minute winner, this is when players like Richarlison and we'll come on to in a minute, Pickford really started to make themselves known. They started to step up. So Richarlison gets that goal at the end. And then we've got 4 points in consecutive games against good teams. So it was good. It was positive because we've been losing to teams regularly before that.
Obviously, we come crashing down again with the derby, and again it was another case.
You say that about the derby, but I was very impressed with that performance.
It was a brilliant. We
were so well organised.
I think it was demoralising the way we were ripped off. Again, it was another case of this continuing story of having games taken, like the opportunity to win games even taken away from you in crucial moments. That was on a knife edge. I think it was 1-0 or maybe 0-0 at that time, and we could have got a penalty and didn't.
There was
a lot of that went on through the season.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. Like, people, they still struggle because it's Everton and Liverpool, and we're Evertonians, and but if you take a step back, this league now has become like La Liga was 10 years ago, where it's just there's the two top teams. They lose about once a season each, maybe twice, and if you're not that team, then you can't be going expecting things off them. We've gone into that game and thought, we're at Anfield, if we get anything, it's an absolute massive bonus because our quality of player is nothing on theirs. And I was like, when I was dead impressed, because like this shows a level of like being streetwise that I didn't think we had, because we set ourselves up. Like, everyone was got the stats. Like, Alan he completed 2 passes successfully, and they were both
13% possession.
Yeah, the kickoffs was like, but we were playing away, which upsets Liverpool and stifles them. We had loads of interceptions, great defending. Okay, it told in the end because they've got quality players. And let's be honest, once again, they cry ass about things going against them. The referee was practically wearing a red shirt that day. We should have had a penalty. It's a nailed-on penalty. They act like they saw a stat at the end of the season that said Liverpool have not conceded a penalty at Anfield all year. It's like, and that's like held up like some defensive masterclass. It's not just evidence of blatant like favouritism. It's like they should have had a penalty, and they could have very easily had a player sent off. Mane with pokes to the face and the eyes.
Yeah,
it's like
the one for me.
On 2 occasions,
No,
if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, it's like you should. It's sad, but the reality is with our team like this, you're dreaming if you're going, unless you've got Ancelotti, you're dreaming if you're going into games against Liverpool thinking you're going to beat them, because only 1 or 2 teams a season beat Liverpool, if that, and it's usually City are one of them, if at all. So for us to go in at Anfield and play like that, I was like, you know what, I'm not gutted about that. We've done really well there, and we've been unlucky against Man City and Liverpool, and had the refs bail the 2 of them out. So we need to go into the next game against Chelsea. We've got to make it count that time.
Like you say, off the back of the derby, then you've got the Chelsea game, haven't you? You know, it's pretty much all or not. And I think after the Liverpool game was the first time of the season we actually dropped into the relegation zone. By the time we go to play Chelsea, Burnley and Leeds had won again, and we were 5 points behind, albeit with the games in hand. And that Chelsea game immediately became absolutely crucial. We all understood that. I think in the wake of the derby, you know, the campaigns began then to really try and, you know, greet the bus. You know, I think this is something that in the past, which, let's be honest, a lot of people have lamented it as like cop-out behaviour and stuff, but I've never seen it that way. And I'll be quite fully honest, I'll go on record on here to say this, that I was very envious of the way that lot across the park, you know, actually shows a bit of passion for the club. I wish we'd have been doing this a lot sooner, you know, possibly for cup semi-finals in years gone by under Martinez Moyes. Should have really been doing this a long time ago, when, you know, for games that matter. And, you know, and better still, do it for every game if you can. Do you know what I mean? I think this is something I was very passionate about. I'm really happy that people came together and tried to organise this, and I'm glad it came to fruition. You know, that the bus greetings I think I really did make a difference more than people realise, especially that first game against Chelsea. You know, with the state we were in, 5 points adrift, we needed that result. And, you know, the fans turned out in the numbers. And that was the one that I went to, and it was unbelievable. And, you know, so much happened. It was a wonderful game. Not in the spectacle sense, but, you know, in terms of what it meant for us as a club, and it sort of brought us back from the brink. You know, so much to enjoy on the day as well. Obviously, the smoke bombs and whatnot, and of course, Myra the dog. I have to give a little shout out to Myra as well. You know, again, just one of the many things that, you know, descended into the multiverse of Everton this season. Like I say, the amount of nonsense that went on. You know, there's so many characters that we can, and memories to take from the season. You know, Myra the dog's definitely another one of those. You know, a very special day for the club. You know, to get the result, 1-0 win. You know, really scrappy goal over Charleston, took it well. And then we hang on. And again, another iconic man of the multiverse, hiding the ball up his shirt with minutes to go. You know, there's so much that went on in this final month of the season. You know, the club was in a matter of disarray because this amount of nonsensical stuff was going on. You had people carrying dogs through bus greetings and people hiding balls up the top. And I mean, I've worded that one absolutely terribly there, but yeah, I mean, this is what the season had descended into. It was absolute chaos, but by this point, it was positive chaos at least. And we got the 3 points, and back not was it to 2 points behind the other 2, and then we go to Leicester the following week. I mean, what was your take on Leicester? Because we go into that one without an away win for 8 months, and we got a win that I really did not see coming personally.
No, me neither. I thought we were really lucky to witness one of them, being honest. But we hung on, and Michalenko scored a great goal. And at this point, you're thinking, yeah, there's something in this for this lad, because not only was he just defending brilliantly, but he was offering something going forward as well. And the mix of that, I think we scored off a set piece. So, you know, it was good. And defensively, I think I didn't watch the last game, but until then, we've looked really good. And yeah, I think this was a big one. This is the point. I think, yeah, we'll probably do this now, and we'll probably stay up.
Yeah, I think that was the point I really believed we'd be okay.
No, I didn't believe we'd be okay. That Chelsea game made me think we're not, we're not definitely down. But it was not. I was not relaxed at that point. It was still, but it made me think there's life in the old dog yet. Like, you know, this was that Liverpool game was like we'd been hit with the finisher of the heel wrestler, and we were about to, you know, we were on 2.5 count, and then the fans started to.
I mean, let's be honest, that lot are the ultimate heel wrestler.
Yeah, and this is we were like Hulk Hogan, where he starts to, like, you know, tremor and Hulk up. Like, this is the bit where we started to make the babyface comeback. And like you said about the bus welcomes, like, I hated the cop-out behaviour shout there, because it was like writing off some of the best parts of football fandom to let Liverpool own it. Like, we don't do that. I thought, at what point are we going to stop cheering for goals because Liverpool do it? It's like, so hopefully that was the turning point, and the effect it's had this season has shown our fans you don't actually have to let them have all the fun stuff. It's good when we do it as well, and it has an impact. The less
we do it well. We do it well.
Yeah, exactly. It works, and it's you can enjoy the experience a lot more when you're more involved like that. But the Leicester game actually wasn't the game where I started to think there was a player in Mykolenko. That was the Merseyside derby. He didn't do much forward, but I was just like, he was against Salah and Trent Alexander-Arnold, which, let's have it right, is the best attacking right-hand side in Europe. And he was excellent all game. And it was only the Leicester game where he hit that goal, that rasper. It's like, oh, actually, there's more to him than just being a Tony Ibbott where he can just defend one-on-one kind of thing. But I didn't see this whole game because I went to watch Doctor Strange too. I've got a name. I couldn't get out of it. I couldn't rearrange it. And I just thought, you know what, I'll just go and see it, because I've only ever done that once before, and it has a positive impact on the results. And it did this time. So I came out going, I might have to do this from now on. Just go and watch a film whenever we're away from home, because we always seem to win when I do. But yeah, we had to build on that Chelsea result. We'd won one away game all season at that point. And Chelsea were in ropey form, but they weren't like United, who just gave it to us. We really put a shift in against Chelsea, and we had to follow it up. We couldn't just win the home games. We had to get some
one away win. We needed to
win at least one away win, because if you're Burnley and Leeds, you're looking at these games going, all right, they've got Man United, they've got Chelsea, they're away at Leicester. These are games they're going to lose, and they were banking on us losing them, and we weren't losing them. And that will have not only helped us and boosted our confidence.
Rattle them.
Yeah, it's put points on the board to make up for bad results where they'd won their game, cancelled that out. But it also affected them mentally, where they might have been like, Everton might be out of it because they're winning the games they're not meant to win. And as Leeds shown, they got away with it in the end anyway. But Leeds were playing the likes of Chelsea and not winning it.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I was like convinced Leeds were going to win that Chelsea game at home, but obviously it all went a bit differently. But in terms of our performances, I think obviously we come away from Leicester with a win. Then we go to Watford. What went down there, that was probably I think the Watford and Brentford games were absolute sucker punches for me, because literally one win was going to do it. Watford, I didn't think it'd be easy, but I thought we'd find a way with them already being gone. But we didn't find the breakthrough against the Watford side, but we're the only team who failed to beat them, I think, this season. I think we're the only team who failed to score at Vicarage Road as well. You know, that's embarrassing, whatever way you paint it. I mean, I know people said it was a point game, and it really was. But to go there and not win and not score a goal is just horrific. And that was a really bad performance. And, you know, if we do, I said Go on.
So sorry, the back-to-back wins, I think, took it out the team. And let's have it right. We aren't a very good team. That was like a bump back down to earth that like actually we're still crap, but we've just put in some good effort and the fans have dragged them through a couple of games, but they can't do it all. So we played Watford, didn't we? And like their fans, I follow some of their fans on Twitter, and so does Owen. Owen will know the ones I mean. And they were like, if Everton don't put 5 past us with that team out, relegate them immediately. It was a massive wasted opportunity, and thankfully it hasn't cost us. But I was worried then going, if we lose out by that game could have changed it.
It was one of those.
They looked, to be honest, they were rubbish. But the thing I noticed that night was Watford had more players out who cared. If they're rubbish, they were really, really shy. But they had players out who had been there a while or in the academy who ran around, whereas they'd been relying on players who didn't care before that. And I think that was the big difference there. They just run around a bit more. And you saw the next game against Leicester when them other players were back, they got battered. So I don't want to give us too much stick because we could have gone out, chased it and got beat, and it would have been unlikely, but we wouldn't have wanted to lose that point. So in the end, I weren't too bothered about that one. But
for me, the season culminated. The real, the absolute disaster class of refereeing really culminated in the next game, which was the real punch in the gut for me, was the Brentford game. To be 1-0 up and cruising, to be honest, we were playing as well as I'd seen us play all season. And then to be denied the penalty and obviously the sending off for Brantwaite was it was a massive punch in the gut. And, even the best side struggled to hold off for 70 minutes with a man down. And so it turned out, we were absolutely had off there. And that left me absolutely broken. I thought we were gone again. In the Brentford game, I thought we'd win that game, and 11v11, I think we do win that game. I think that was when the real sort of disdain for the referees for me really reached a boiling point, to be honest, because I was saying in the pre-match for the Palace game afterwards that we should be going with massive banners saying how corrupt the referees are, showing evidence, photographs, everything, just to try and, get in the referee's head, because we needed to do something to put a stop to them, making these decisions against us. Yeah, we got you, man.
Yeah, I'm just having a few technical difficulties.
Yeah, I know what you mean, though, about the referees. Like, that game, it was just like, how much more blatant do you want the fact that, like, they don't give the penalty, and then like a few minutes later, the same player affects. Like she should have been sent off. Was it the same player, Sorensen, was it?
Yeah, he should. Yeah. He was on a booking and he tricked the player. We got the penalty, but he didn't get sent off again.
It was just basically official. Like we thought we've got 2 home games back to back now, and we need to win one and we'll wrap it up. And then that game looked like it was going to be the more easier to win. And then we get to the game and there's injuries. Like, Michael Keane is injured and we're playing Brantwaite. So there's a little bit of a nervous thing. I really like Brantwaite, but it was like having any injuries whatsoever was nerve-wracking because we'd only really looked solid defensively on the few games that we've had Jerry Mina. And it felt like it did feel, and it still does, like the referees and the officials, the VAR, what have you, they were conspiring like to get us relegated, because it was just so relentless how many.
They were sticking the knife in way too much.
Yeah, and it was just like, how many times are they going to get basic things wrong that cost us games? And it was just like, we've got 1 game left now because we've got 2 on the board, but that away game at Arsenal, everyone said we can't go into that game needing anything, because if we do, it's in the hands of the other teams, because we're not going to get a thing away at Arsenal. We can't, we haven't been good away all year, and we're just not going to do it. So we need to win one of these 2 home games, and one went, and it was in our hands. So obviously the fear was just palpable before the Palace game.
And obviously that filters into, the bus greeting again, like the atmosphere was absolutely raucous. And then, someone tried to manifest this, I think, before the kickoff against Palace, someone tweeted out, I think, we've got to relegate a home relegation decided against the team playing at Selhurst Park, and we're obviously going to win 3-2. And we did it in pretty much identical fashion. This was almost a carbon copy of that Wimbledon game, to be honest. It was.
I was really worried when they scored their second that day, because I knew we'd get beat by Arsenal because they had something on it and it was away, and I just thought if either of them teams get a win somewhere between them, but we're gone. But we managed to get something, and I don't know what Frank Lampard said at half time, but they just come out second half like madmen. We just threw the ball in the box at every opportunity, and it was really effective because I don't think we did anything going forward in the first half, but the second half we were just throwing everything at it, and it was just, you just sensed once we got one, and when we got one, I thought we'd win it.
It was one of those games. I think a lot of people had the Wimbledon game in their heads already about that. I think, the way the first half of unfolds is that like the fans weren't going to fold, and I think that meant the players wouldn't fold. Even if we didn't win, that we were going to go down with a fight, and obviously that second half there was so much fight.
Yeah, I mean, I when we went 2-0 down, I thought it's over. It's like we're banking on one of them. One of them needs to lose, and I thought if they both win, and I thought Burnley are at home and Leeds are against Brentford. Like, it's not like they're playing City and Liverpool each, is it? It's like it was. I thought that's it. We're down because it's in other teams' hands. Scored one. My attitude didn't change. I thought this team hasn't got a lot of goals in it, though. It's not like it's going to. I thought we might get an equaliser and then give us a little bit of hope going into the last game. But when we got the equaliser and there was still time, I was like, I completely changed my attitude. The first two goals, what I didn't think we'd get, I had no doubt we'd get the third. It was like, Goodison Park, been going for since 2003-04, so nearly 20 years. And I just thought, I've been in this ground enough to know that we will just make this goal happen. Every throw in, everything, every set piece, we're just going to absolutely
boring it in. Because our Kendall said it, didn't he? Suck it in.
The Gladys Street will suck the ball in the nets. That's exactly what was going to happen. Yeah, so I didn't think it'd be the manner of which I thought this will be like a crazy set piece and someone will just toe poke it in or something like that. And then obviously a little bit more romance to it than that. A flying header from an Everton number 9. It was long overdue, and obviously the roof blew off. And then the way you say some players haven't got game intelligence. I don't think our fan base has got game intelligence. The fact that they practically pitch invaded
on the pitch, that was like absurd.
On our goal on the 85th minute, I was like, you're going to cancel it out. They're going to walk, because it wasn't like 2 or 3 run on like you sometimes see. Like, when someone gets over the barrier and starts celebrating with the players, it was like, it was all round the pitch and there was multiples, dozens of people. And I was like, I think Vieira said he wanted to pull the players off afterwards. It's like, we're going to get this match abandoned, or we're going to have about 10 minutes stoppage time, which will cost us. I thought, you absolute idiots. You see Calvert-Lewin replay, Calvert-Lewin, after he stops celebrating, throws his hands up and goes, get off the pitch. As if because he knows they're going to jeopardise it. Nothing happened, obviously. And then obviously the biggest party for many a year takes place.
I mean, there was a lot of going into the game, wasn't there? It was like, if we win, don't run on the pitch and don't celebrate. But I think it was the nature of the win more than the actual win that led to the scenes.
Yeah, obviously it was, the fan base had been just living under like a lead weight of anxiety and stress. Like, it wasn't
just we've been tortured the whole season, We've been
it
tortured
wasn't
for
just
the past hour talking about pitch.
It wasn't just the going down. It didn't feel like a year's sentence if you got relegated. It felt like a death sentence, because it was like, we will implode because we're so badly managed financially. the stadium on the docks, which was a pipe dream for ages. That
In
that
jeopardy then, yeah.
That will have fell by the wayside because no one's going to fund it if it's not in the Premier League and hasn't got the TV money. It just felt like if we go down, that is literally the end of Everton Football Club for a good decade plus, because look what happened to Leeds, look what's happened to Sunderland. So we'd be like that. We might even be worse than that because we're so badly run. So the fact that we, in those circumstances, fight back 3 goals and then we're safe at guaranteed safety, it was just like getting told you've recovered from a terminal illness you thought you had. It was such unadulterated joy and relief.
But Alison Rudd thinks we should get points deducted for her on the pitch.
Oh, of course she does. Like, I'm sorry, but you get idiots doing things like that Forest fan, and there was clearly one of our fans didn't remember Patrick Vieira's playing days, because I wouldn't have done a thing to Patrick Vieira.
He rightly so got legged.
Yeah, absolute idiots. But this whole nonsense about you should, dock points if you run on the pitch. Listen, they shouldn't be running on the pitch, but isn't it funny how when Everton do it, Liverpool supporting journalists to say we need to dock points? Come on now. Let's take...
I'm not being funny. I was personally at the 7-0 Bristol Rovers win where they turned it around, and there was a pitch invasion there. It's part and parcel of football. When the sublime happens, people erupt in jubilation because it's unbelievable.
You know what? The wider points are fine, but I'm sorry, it's just so transparent with a lot of these journalists and pundits. It depends who does it. If Everton or City do it, it's bad. But if Liverpool did it, if they won the league at the end of the season, or United, these clubs that they really care about and they support, they wouldn't condone it. They wouldn't say it's a great thing, but there'd be no energy for points deductions. There'd be no energy for punishments. They'd just be saying, they'd just basically
slap him on the wrist.
Yeah, they'd be the old tut-tut, wag the finger at the supporters. Shouldn't be doing this. But when it's clubs they don't like, and clubs that in opposition to the clubs they support, that's when they start going with the extremes, like you need points deducted and all. That's like, come on now, let's be real. You need to possibly change the rules since it's become more of a regular thing and get more procedures in place for next season. But points deductions for people running on the pitch after they win a game to survive, get real.
That's what I fear is the sanitisation of football. It's really like sort of taking the fun out of it. I think that you've got to realise that the game belongs to the fans at the end of the day, and I think that's what a lot of these journalists fail to comprehend, is that it's our game. The fans make football what it is. And
I'm not saying I agree. I disagree with them entirely. There is a massive safety concern. Like in
and there should be, yeah.
In very rare one-off instances, you can understand it. But it sort of set off a wave, didn't it? When as soon as Forest did it, I think they were first. Then we did it. Then City did it, and it's just like I wouldn't condone doing it every time there's a big result or a big thing. But when you stay up after you've been worried all season, it's understandable. But fans are very monkey see, monkey do, aren't they? And I think that's what they're doing. They're trying to sort of get ahead of it and try and say, stop doing it. That's enough. No more of them. But it's like with everything. The pundits and the journalists and all that do in this country when it comes to football, it's their takes are completely coloured by who they support. So instead of City and Everton, if it was Man United and Liverpool, you would see a condemnation. You would not see the extreme backlash because there'd be no appetite to dock those teams points or to do anything that severe, because the people who have these opinions all support those clubs.
Indeed. But on the note of the fans, like we say, the game belongs to the fans. We as Everton fans have really, I think that's the one thing that I will take as a positive away from this season, is that we as fans have really seized back control of our club.
Yeah, we need to keep it up though. We need to see if people have got the appetite to, demand change, because this was a near miss. And if we go into the future seasons and we've still got Bill Kenwright and Denise Barrett-Baxendale running the club. And sure, he's not great himself. He interferes, but he owns the club lock, stock and barrel. So you can't force him to sell. What you can do is pressure him to get actual professional, top-class people to run the club. Get better people to run it. We will be in this position again, and we might not get away with it next time. If we go into next season and allow them, and seasons ahead, it might not even be that quick, but in seasons going forward, we will be in danger again with these charlatans running the club, because they're already doing it the same way they used to push the charity. They're going to start pushing the fans now and say the fans are all together, and they'll try and position themselves as part of the movement when the fans need to go.
Is in spite of what they've done.
Yeah, it's like you need to have more cohesion and more stability behind the scenes. You need to get structure in place on the pitch and off the pitch to make us more resilient to these type of dangers. If we get 5 or 6 injuries, we don't want to collapse like we have done this time. We want better players and more reliable players on the pitch, but we also want better structure off the pitch, a better CEO who can get better money in the door with brand deals and what have you. You let a proper running of a football club with a chain of command, get the academy helping working for the club, not against it. No more of these little fiefdoms behind the scenes. You need to get actual quality, best in class people to run the club, because we've tried the mom and pop approach and it's nearly cost us everything this season.
And again, like I absolutely second what you're saying there about that. If we don't take action now, it could come back to bite us. This malaise will continue and the pain will continue. None of us as fans who've been watching these games, supporting the club this season, want this again. I know it ended on a high note, but we don't want to go through this again. Even the Echo have said that. That's, don't put us through this again. And I mean, I don't trust Kenwright or Denise to read the room because they've never read the room in the first place. But
I don't trust Mashiri either. But you've got to be realistic. Like, you need the infrastructure and the support in place to make yourselves more bulletproof for this type of thing. You better everything behind the scenes. Kevin Thelwell, like, we've gone all in on directors of football before, but he's done things behind the scenes that seem to be very different than his predecessors. He's got rid of David Unsworth. Seems to, by all accounts, seems to be on song with Lampard, whereas we've had directors of football who've been working at loggerheads with managers before. We Walsh and Koeman, and then Benitez and Brands. We need actual harmony and clear vision behind the scenes, and I'm sorry, this current setup has shown that they can't do that. They can't provide that. So it
hasn't worked.
They need to be replaced. We need proper people doing these jobs, because we've got away with it big time this year, because 3 teams have been much worse than us. We were one of the worst, if not the worst team this season for long spells. It's only only the supporters who got us out of it, and we now need to get our ducks in a row in the summer, on and off the pitch, get things looking healthier financially, make sure not 91 pence of every pound's going on player wages, rebalance the squad a little bit, even if you have to lose some key players, get more structure in the core. I keep saying structure, but get more structure in the core where you've got players, solidity, players who are reliable, who aren't injured for like 55-60% of the season, and not a massive drop off in quality, like more energy, more youth in the team, more leaders. There's no leaders. The only leader in the entire squad was Seamus Coleman, and we can't keep flogging him forever. His legs have gone. He's getting a bit of a second wind as we're part of a back 3. But at what point are we going to, the law of diminishing returns is going to mean we can't rely on him much longer. So we need more leaders in the club as well.
Absolutely. I definitely have to agree with that. But, we spoke about the fans. We mobilised to really drag our team to safety. And we've had the desired outcome. Is it time now to finish off? We'll finish off in a minute anyway, but is it time now for the fans to mobilise, to demand change, we tried it earlier in the season, obviously with the 27 years campaign. It was met with mixed reviews back then, but after what we've been put through in the months since, is it time now for everyone to get on board and demand that certain personnel leave the club?
It's long past time. That should have been, well, as far as I'm concerned, I was one of the people who marched against Ken Wright 10 years ago. But
not just Ken Wright, though, beyond that.
It's, if people don't do it after this season, they're never going to do it.
You never will.
Yeah, I know not everyone agrees. There's some people who, like Bill Kenwright, and, me and them are never going to see eye to eye. But even they must see that it needs better people now. Even if you want Kenwright moved to the side and put in some lifetime president role or whatever, they must see now that the people who run the club day to day, there won't be Denise Barrett-Baxendale loyalists, surely. The likes of her need to go, and you need proper people in place. They need to now take that momentum of what's got the team out of trouble and
build on it.
Focus it on the board and just say, no, you've had your chance. That's not good enough. We bailed you out. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and now never put us in that position again where we're having sleepless nights and can't enjoy football because of just the anxiety we're feeling.
Actually, that. And on that note, we'll sign off anyway. But with that in mind, obviously for the fans, by all means, it is time to mobilise and demand change at the club, but also take a well-earned rest, because by God, we've been put through the ringer this season. We deserve a hard-earned rest, and I think we'll all enjoy a few months of sleeping well, good night's sleep, a few transfer rooms aside, maybe, because silly season's already getting underway, but it's not 24 hours since the season's finished, but
10 weekends of peace we've got now, and
it is, make the most of them. They don't come around often enough.
Now you get Lampard and his team now get the luxury of a pre-season. They get to bring some players in after having a proper look at the squad, and they know
Pelwell's allowed to do his job. That's a big factor.
They get the same advantages that everyone else gets now. They all start on 0 points. They all get a summer to put tactics and put new players in and get some players out. It's going to be much better for the team. And plus, we can properly judge Lampard after this. We haven't really touched on him a lot. We've touched on everything else, but he's been absolutely magnificent with how he's harnessed the fan base. And I was like Owen, who's clearly done what the Everton team did at the end of the season with Arsenal and just got off early. I was sceptical. I didn't think he had it in him, but I've been impressed with how he reacted to the change in style, and the way he speaks is just something I didn't expect. He's got the fan base, which I thought was beyond help, which was too jaded to really get them on side and have them help the team. And now I think next season, as an actual manager, we can properly judge him, because this season he's been like a wartime prime minister, hasn't he? He's like, you can't
galvanised us. He's helped obviously the fans as well. We've really come together to help that. But now it's time, I think, to keep it all going again. Keep it all going again next season. But for now, a well-earned rest for all of us, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Some peace and quiet while everything gets set up, and then we'll go again, and we'll be made up its back.
Ready to go. We'll be ready to go, and hopefully keep the bus greetings going and that, because that was class. But yeah. Anyway, guys, we'll wrap it up there. Thanks for tuning in to a very long and arduous season review. Let us know your opinions on the season. All the good and the bad. Drop us a comment below. Give this video a like and subscribe for more content. Also, check out the store links in the description below. And until next time, until next season, hopefully a much better season. Thank you guys for tuning in on the Toffee Blues.